Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, the house that Dungeons and Dragons built, Legends of Vox Machina, Amazon Prime. We're going to talk about Season 1, Episode 9, and what was the best moment in this episode. Now, I'll tell you right now, I've been doing this structure of best moment and worst moment, and I take notes, of course, right? And so when I took my notes to determine what I was going to talk about in my video, there were 3 best moments and 3 worst moments. It's like the whole show is just and actually this isn't I don't think this is so much a Vox Machina thing, but I think you may have this experience. Like if you start a show, right, and you're like, I'm not really digging this, right? You could bounce out in episode 1 or 2, but most shows, right, if you power through and you just keep going and you hit episode 3, 4, if it's well written and well crafted, which I think overall the Legends of Vox Machina show is, basically it's well written with some major problems, with some. It's hard to say major because I'm just really loving this show. So basically, I'm going to say that it was, you will get invested in the characters, you get invested in the plot, and you're hooked, right? And I'm very much there. I have tried, and I really thought it was me, could not connect to Legends of Vox Machina, the web show, right? Like the Twitter, YouTube, podcast thing. There was 1,000 hours of Legends of Vox Machina. That's too many hours, right? But this, I get it now. I get what all the critters love so much about Critical Role, right? I really get the coolness of the characters, everything here. I get the way the stories are intertwining, and just like any real Dungeons and Dragons tale does, it's the story of heroes, right? And while Percy is absolutely a villain in the show, and he has co-opted the rest of the group to do his villainous acts, it's still a hero's tale, right? In my humble opinion. All right. So what is the best moment in this show? Boy, ooh, man, it is good. It is the return of Pike Trickfoot, right? So Pike Trickfoot is Ashley Johnson's cleric, okay? And she does an amazing job of returning her cleric, literally transporting her to where the Briarwoods have taken over I don't think it's called Whitestone, where Whitestone is, right? The town where Whitestone is. I'm not sure if it's called Whitestone. Percy the DeRollo's land, right? And the DeRollos villainously led their people, and then a bigger group of villains, a more dedicated set of villains, replaced the DeRollos, and Percy's really super revenge ridden, right? And just kind of wants to replace. He wants to put his villainous. Actually, he doesn't even want to put his villainous family back in place. It doesn't look like. What it really looks like is he's upset that his villain family was displaced by a meaner villain family, right? The DeRollos treated people like dirt, were horrible nobles. Made sure that everybody knew they were the highest of the hierarchy. Really were terrible to Professor Anders, and really crafted him as a perfect servant of the Briarwoods, right? And so I think that's really, I have to say, I'm really getting interested in the DeRollos. Just like how they treated people so meanly that when the Briarwoods rolled in, it was super easy for the Briarwoods to take over, because the DeRollos were such horrible trash nobles who were like, I'm a noble, you're a dirt person, right? It was really bad, right? And Percy carries that forward. He's like, I don't care about restoring anything for the people. All I care about is my revenge, right? I don't even want to put anything back in place. I just want my cold-hearted revenge. And it is really interesting, and it's really a powerful story of today, of how villains, boy, oh boy, listen to this. Well, you want to talk about tackling cultural, oh my gosh, is Percy DeRollo a Trump narrative, right? A villain co-opting heroes to do villainous acts? Wow, that's deep. Sorry, let me stay focused. I love this show. I just love this show so much, right? And so basically, Pike Trickfoot brings herself back to aid Vox Machina, right? She shows back up. One of the things that's really cool is she has a really deep relationship, a really strong friendship with Grog. That is very much shown in the show. It's fantastic. But what I really loved about Pike Trickfoot's return is she returns with the following things established. She is a real cleric. She worships a real deity, right? Like, it's not just her, it was all inside. I got worried because, like, in episode 7, they were like, it was all inside you. It was, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's her own, like, I thought they were going to go down the road of, like, you are your own god, because that's the biggest, if you're not aware, that's the biggest story, that's the biggest question for all humankind. Who's God? Are humans God, or is God God, right? That decides a whole lot. Decides whether you're going to be in the super light radiant place or the super hot place, right? Like, it's a big question, right? And by the way, there are no atheists and there are no agnostics. Everybody answers this question in one way or another, right? Like, I say God is God. I'm human. He's sovereign. He's perfect. I'm incredibly flawed, and I'm literally damned, right? And then other people are like, oh, yeah, I don't need a savior. I can save myself. Humans are God, right? And so every person on the planet, there really aren't any atheists or agnostics, in my humble opinion. They just answer this question one way or another. Like, are humans God, or is God God, right? And one of the things I really liked was Matthew Mercer said, God is God, right? Like, these deities are real, right? He aligned it. Now, why would he do that? Well, Matthew Mercer is the greatest banner man of today, of modern America, right? He carries the banner for two distinct elements, for Gary Gygax, and he carries the banner for Dungeons and Dragons, okay? Now, why would I say Matthew Mercer carries the banner for Gary Gygax, right? So I am very dedicated to Gary Gygax. I really want his legacy to live, and I take very strong actions, very persistent actions to make sure that Gary Gygax is never forgotten. Matthew Mercer has done more than me. Matthew Mercer, at the bequest, I don't even know if it was her bequest. I think he might have just wanted to go, right? He went to Gary Gygax's house with Satine Phoenix, right? And it was a pilgrimage, and just so you're aware, I think a lot of people might start making this pilgrimage, right? Like, I like to do this. I like to go to places where there's right, if you go to Gary Gygax's house right now, you can't go inside. I think you can drive down the street, right? I love going someplace that if a normal person just drove past it, it would look like, it wouldn't look like anything significant. But if Gary's house, it just looks like a normal American house in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, right? And Matthew Mercer went there, right? And he went there with Satine Phoenix. And if you don't know who Satine Phoenix is, you best take a look, because Satine Phoenix is an incredibly memorable person. She's incredibly knowledgeable of Dungeons and Dragons. And she went with, so Matthew Mercer's never forget the day he made his pilgrimage to Gary's house, right? And so he knows who Gary is. He knows what Gary stood for. And Gary was like, God is God. Like, the whole game cries out, like, these deities are not, your vague idea of goodness, right? Deities are real. Their power is real. Clerics draw power from deities, right? Which is a model, in my humble opinion, of evangelical Christianity, where we draw power from prayer. We ask God for things, and he gives it to us through prayer. We ask God for things through prayer, and if it is within his will, he grants it to us, right? Evangelical Christians are a lot like clerics, right? Like, I can, if your kid's sick, I can pray for your kid, and or your wife, right? Or you, right? And you could be healed, right? Like, that's real power, right? Like, incredible, right? And that's exactly that's the model that Gary set, right? He's like, this isn't a man is God, this isn't a human is God story, this is a God is God story, right? So it's very, very interesting, and when Pike Trickfoot returns, she returns as a powerful, radiant cleric, and through her is the power of Saren Ray, right? And she's like, this ain't me, this is Saren Ray. I am a channel for Saren Ray's, divine power, and I'm here to bring it, right? Like, and she does. She brings healing, and she brings encouragement, and while Saren Ray is just a fictional deity, right? It's exactly what evangelical Christians get from God, real God. Like, we get, he's a radiant being. He shines light into our lives. The darkness is cut away, and everything around people who channel the power of God today gets better, right? Like, it's a perfect. So I was just really excited that, it's a perfect. It really is. It's just perfect. I was so pleased with how the whole thing, kind of scrambled through, and the return of Pike Trickfoot as this incredibly radiant person. I was just really, really thrilled with how everything went down, and very, very excited. So that, to me, is the best moment in Legends of Vox Machina Season 1, Episode 9. And in my opinion, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.